Hey there, I'm Steve, and welcome to Jamson Entertainment. And welcome to the conversation. Just before we get started, there are many ways you can help. You can like and subscribe so you never miss a conversation. But most importantly, please share this video. Get the word out there so we can talk about all the things that we love. Today on Throwback Thursday, we're looking at Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles, the movie from the 90s. Starring Judith Hoag, Elias Koteas. I'll do a blanket, sorry mispronounced that. Joss Pace, David Foreman, Brian Toshi, Leif Tilden, Corey Feldman, McKellen Sisti, Robbie Rist, Kevin Clash, that's Elmo. I mean, here is playing Splinter, but he's the original Elmo. James Saito, David McCarran, Toshihiro Obata, Michael McConaughey, Michael Turney, Jay Patterson, Raymond Sierra, and Sam Rockwell. As you can tell by the thumbnail, I really enjoy this movie. And despite it having flaws, I find this movie to be a masterpiece for numerous reasons. Let's just start with the turtle suits slash animatronics. There was no reason why they had to turn out this good. Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles was a kid show. Before that, it was a comic. I can imagine that the studio took a big risk taking on this movie, and New Line Cinema was a new studio at the time, but they went all out with this. They didn't pull any punches. They gave it a real budget, and this movie looks spectacular. Not only from the suits, but also it just looks lived in. It looks like the streets of New York. I mean, some of the shots in the movie are actually in New York City, but there's a sense of realism to this movie. Like, you can actually believe that giant turtles actually exist and they fight crime in New York City. That's how good the technology was back in 1990. Well, 1989 when the movie was filmed. This is speculation on my part, but I'd like to think that the 1989 Batman is part of the reason why this movie was made, and part of the reason why it looks so great and so realistic. I've seen this movie countless times. I don't know why on this viewing, I'm just noticing how much it pulls at the heartstrings. For giant turtles, this could have easily just been a campy kids movie that I loved as a kid, and watching as an adult I can be like, I really like this? I like this? I don't have those thoughts. This movie holds up 30 years later. At an hour and a half, this movie has no fat on it. It does a masterful job of telling you who the turtles are without them just looking at the camera and saying, well, this is how we came to be. I mean, there is that in the story, but it's not just telling the audience. It's telling April, who is a proxy for the audience, but they also give you visuals to it as well. There is a lot of visual storytelling in this, and the animatronics in the face of the turtles, it's not perfect, but it's pretty close for the time period. They are so emotive, they can get across ideas with just facial expressions. And it's also extremely impressive how maneuverable these suits are. The actors slash stuntmen inside these outfits have complete maneuverability. They can do flips, kicks, everything. There's no real limit to it. It's amazing. And all the actors are bringing their A game to this. Like I said, it pulls at the heartstrings. It makes you feel for giant turtles and a giant rat. It's a kids movie, but it's a near perfect kids movie. Ninja Turtles was all the rage in the late 80s and early 90s. And I was part of that fandom. My mom likes to every now and then tell the story of when I was in preschool. I was graduating from preschool, which, now that I think of it, is kind of an odd concept. I had a Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles sweater I was obsessed with. I wore it everywhere. My mom dressed me up in like a tiny suit because I was like 4 or 5 years old. And stubborn little me refused. Apparently, I was in the back, half undressed, because I refused to wear the suit, and I wanted to wear the Ninja Turtles sweater. My teacher comes out, talks to my mom, but also talks to me, and I ultimately wear the sweater. I'm sure my mom has pictures of me somewhere at the graduation. And the turtles are definitely responsible for my pizza obsession. If I could eat pizza every single day and not be as big as a house, I would. I'll calm down on gushing how much I love the Teenage Mutant Turtles for a second. I'll get to the plot, which is a pretty broad and open plot. You have the enemy that are called the Foot Clan, and they're only described as being an old gang from Japan. And their leader is Oroku Saki, who is also the Shredder, and his right-hand man, Tatsu, who trains the Foot Clan. I don't know why, but they don't explain why Shredder and his gang are doing what they're doing. You can kind of figure it out because there's like a social commentary here. They recruit a whole bunch of kids to steal for them, and they can also move up in ranks, going from just simple thieves and pickpockets to becoming soldiers. And the social commentary is that their family's not there for them, but Shredder and his organization is. He even points that out in his speech to them, which I don't know why I never drew this comparison before, but there's definitely some Star Wars homage in here. I don't know if the creator or creators of the Ninja Turtles are Star Wars fans. I could imagine that they are, because look at Shredder. Does he look like anyone? He even has a line that Darth Vader says in the original trilogy that I'm not going to give away because spoilers. To further the social commentary of parents not being there for their kids, there is Danny and his relationship with his dad, or the lack thereof. He's another proxy for the audience, showing why he's doing what he's doing and him experiencing this world that's being unfolded before us. But the main proxy for the audience is April O'Neil. She's been reporting on the rise in crime and calling out the chief of police and trying to get answers about the Foot Clan, because she's heard about it from immigrants that came over and they recognize this pattern of crime. And there's a whole animosity between her and the chief, because the chief only hears from these small pockets of New York as just rumors of an old gang that came over from Japan. But there's no real evidence around it. Despite April being mugged by them, unfortunately she doesn't have any physical evidence. She only has her experience, and not enough to convince the chief. We are first introduced to her leaving her job as a reporter, and she gets mugged by the teenagers, not necessarily the initiated, and the Turtles save her, and then they later team up. I'm going to go back to the Turtles, because not only is the technology that brought them to life amazing, but so is the acting, both the voice and the physical acting. They each have distinct personalities. You have Leonardo that does his best to be a leader, even though he's sometimes seen as one of the worst leaders. But if you think about it, he is a teenager, so he's still learning how to be a leader. Then you have Donatello. The best way to describe him is from the cartoon show's theme song, He Does Machines. They don't really demonstrate that in this movie. The closest they do is when he's with Casey Jones working on a truck. Raphael has an attitude, and well, I'm just quoting the theme song at this point. Michelangelo's a party dude. Michelangelo's also my favorite. Because of Raphael's attitude, he spends a lot of time alone. So when he gets upset, he'll leave to try and figure things out and just blow off steam. He does that, and he witnesses a purse snatching, and he stops the thugs and gives it back to the woman. The thugs jump the wall, and then we're introduced to Casey Jones. And it's awesome how Casey and Raphael first meet, because they just see each other as competition. Casey Jones is a vigilante who wears a hockey mask, and he does what he can for the city. And at some point, he teams up with the Turtles, and it just becomes them versus the Foot Clan. Along with the awesome effects, you also have great fight choreography. Now, there are parts where, like, Foot members are waiting to attack, and I can only imagine why that is, because the actors in the suits aren't going to have full range of sight, and I'm guessing that their hearing is also muffled, but it's not so noticeable. They are definitely taking on multiple opponents, and it's choreographed so well you can barely see the choreography, and it's just awesome. And to add to the many awesome layers in this, it also has a great soundtrack. This first movie perfectly captures the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles beautifully. And it's the next two movies where they start to go into camp and really nonsensical stuff. Even though, yeah, it's a nonsensical that giant turtles and a giant rat exist fighting crime. But that's comic books. You see the fantastical in there. Comic books are the modern myths, modern heroes. And if you take a look at old myths. Those are also fantastical. When I was thinking of what to review next, I thought of why not the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles. And because I love movies so much, I see the movies like this. You got the good, the bad, and the ugly. I know it's quite obvious. I absolutely love this movie though. And if you can find a 4K version out there, I'm not sure if there is, it's definitely worth 4K. I currently have a Blu-ray triple pack. If that's what's available, then I recommend you get the Blu-ray triple pack. Yeah, I know it's the first movie, but each movie has something enjoyable in them, and we'll get to that. Those are my thoughts on Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles. Let me know your thoughts in the comments below. Thank you for watching, and live your imagination.